you know how sometimes you get a flashback of something and it's one word or one thing you see on a film somewhere or a dream, your own dream trying to make you, to help you remember. Well, I don't know if I'll say this. I've said in the past many times that the way that PTSD happens when you forget things completely, I've been told that that's normal, and I've been told also that it's normal that when it's something does finally trigger the memory to come back, that it feels like you're there. And typically, you remember it, in such depth that you can't forget where you are. And it's like it literally just happened. You relive it. So you have no memory, and all of a sudden, you have immense detail, great depth of that memory. I'm being told that, by psychologists and things throughout my life, that that's normal for PTSD. And so that's why I accepted it for so long. But deep down, I always had this instinct. I have a tendency to really want to remember everything because I feel like if you can base the present and even potentially the future off of past events, then you can be prepared and ready to fight back. And if you don't know what has happened in the past, then you are a sitting duck, just, waiting to be slaughtered. You are oblivious to the danger in front of you. And so it was always about being prepared for me. Anytime anything bad happened, I was like, okay, I'm going to remember this. This is the lesson here. This is what it teaches me. Never trust your family. Um, and expect them to do this again. That is a vital purpose of survival, in my eyes. Remembering. And it gets to a certain point where you've had too many things happen to you and you don't trust them. And they've lost all the edge on you that they had with any kind of brainwashing or influence because you don't listen to them. And they're afraid that you're going to tell somebody. And they desperately want you to forget. So they're already telling you things when you actually do remember. They're already telling you things like, oh, it was just a dream that did never happen. Even if they have the audacity to tell you that moments after it happened. So like if it happened 30 minutes ago, and then you ask, why did you do this to me? And you've been awake the entire time and you didn't fall asleep, they'll still say, oh, it's a dream. And if that doesn't work, they'll say that you're insane and you're imagining things and it's all in your head. And you will scream for hours, know it's real, as they scream for hours back and punish you when you don't obey. They've got all the motive in the world. Okay, first off. And secondly, a lot of things that I do remember, I know I'm not insane because I can pair it either directly, a direct link with physical evidence, like a scar, for example. When I was shot, I could say, okay, I'm not insane because there's the scar. And it's exactly where I remember it. I actually had to, because most of it's on my back, I had to twist and turn with a mirror to see it, but I did see it. So I'm thinking, okay, if things like that physical evidence like that supports the fact that it actually happened exactly the way that I remember it happening, then I'm not insane. Simple as that. Other times it's less obvious. There's, my family, they belong to this Abrahamic cult, thinks in like the 1400s, neo-Nazi type. Anyway, and they've always called me demon child, witch, and another one's it, just it. But demon child, devil child, witch. That's what they believe I was when I was born, and that's where all this abuse started. To pair that, and they'll never admit that. They'll never admit that there's some kind of Nazi. Okay, they'll never admit that. But I was able to pair fact with memory. They have a signed original copy of Mein Kampf just proudly displayed in their living room. And I remember once as a child, just learning how to read, asking what it was, my father telling me, and me being exceptionally appalled, saying, "Why do you have this book written by an evil man in your house?" And my mother and father, their response was, this was their response. And at the time, I was too young to fully understand the depth of how important it was that I remembered their response, because their response was very, very, it wasn't just I didn't understand, it was very suspicious. Their response was, because it's a essential piece of history, it's one of the only copies left, and they had no right to burn them. That was really the last one. They had no right to burn them. Who would say that? Who would say that it's a bad thing that most of the books got burned? Who would say that it's a bad thing? Unless you're Nazi. And so, it was these things that were compiling together, supporting my claim that I wasn't just overreacting, that they really were part of some kind of cult. To this day, I do not know what the name of that cult is, but there's been paraphernalia in their house. When I asked them about it, that was their response. So I know I'm not insane. They have access to a lot of things. When they gassed me, they had access to a fucking gas chamber. Okay? So stuff like this happens underground. Stuff like this happens right underneath everyone's noses. And no one truly realizes just how much of an edge they have underground, how many things and facilities and things that they own that they can use at their disposal for whatever the fuck they want to. And no one believes you, they laugh at you. And that doesn't make it any better. But I'm being told that, it's completely normal to forget things completely, and I'm sitting here thinking, but I wouldn't have wanted to. I'm not one of those people that would be in denial, because like I said, I want to use that memory to my advantage, to learn, to be able to fight back, and so that I'm not caught by surprise. You know what happens if you're in denial in my situation? If you're in denial or if you're oblivious, you either get deathly ill or you die. And I think it was just instinctual for me to remember. And I had to know why for everything, and I think that was instinctual too. If I hadn't asked why about the book, I wouldn't have had that memory of their response, for example. Everything's coming to a head. And you would think that even though it doesn't make sense that you would forget, you in the past, I accepted it, because that's what I was told by psychologists my entire life. But when I have this new memory, and I can't remember what triggered it now, but when I had this new memory, I realized that it wasn't just PTSD that made me forget. It wasn't just that. There's this little, like, folded, kind of folded, like okay, I can't do it, but it's like a folded back. The arm won't bend far, but it's a folded back bed, and it looks like a hospital type, but it's really skinny. And I'm being asked to get up there and attach all these things to me, and I don't know why, but I just immediately freak the fuck out. There's this lady in a hospital gown, and she's wearing she's got black hair, and she's got that long hospital type gown thing. I mean that like the white. I don't mean the gown that the patients wear. I mean the white thing that the doctors wear. This right here is what I'm talking about, actually. When I say things like this, you'll notice if you've watched my channel at all, which you probably haven't, when I say things like this, and I say the wrong words for things, or I stutter, okay, this is a big part, what I'm about to tell you is a big part of why I'm like that. And before I got this memory, I just thought that I was just dumb. But no, it's just a neurological thing that happened from this moment. Okay, so, or partially at least from this moment. You know, who knows? I've had a lot of different other head traumas and things from my family, but this one has a lot to do with memory. So anyway, I don't know why, instincts, I just freak out. I don't like this idea, especially when she tells me that, you know, I'm gonna forget all the bad things and I'm gonna feel better. And I just something inside me just said fight. And so I tried my best to fight, and they had to pin me down and force me to stay there. I remember what it felt like to be shocked. And I remember at certain times I felt like I couldn't breathe. I wanted to breathe and my body wouldn't let me breathe. And then I would pass out. I think it was because of the electricity going through me. It was set too high. The electricity was set way too high. And I felt like I was going to pass out. So when I would come to, well, actually the first few times I didn't fully pass out. So they kept making it stronger and stronger. And when I finally came to, after one of the times, you know, I get off of the bench table thing, and I'm furious with them because I had no idea what they were going to do to me. They just gave me a bunch of pain, and all that I knew was that it was something unnatural, an unnatural type of pain that makes you not able to breathe and pass out. And I just instinctively trusted that they were trying to probably kill me or something, if not kill me, like something really bad. And so I fought like hell to get out of there at that point. And the first thing that I said was, "You did this to me. Why did you do this to me?" And they had to restrain me again. And they had this little side conversation with my mother and father saying, well, it's not an exact science, and basically, you know, it may take several times, and there may be things that, you know, they never fully forget. And my family responded with basically, no, we paid for this, you will do this until she forgets. You know, we are paying you. You know, they got so mad and so furious. And she seemed a bit hesitant for a little bit, but she was really beady-eyed at the same time. Like, she did not give a fuck, even though she was hesitant. And so I think it was mostly about disclaimer than it was about caring, you know, and being compassionate. I think it was just a disclaimer, really. And she was worried about a potential, what you call, it's happening again. A very common word. And usually I'll stop it and then I'll start it again when I remember the word, but I'll just, you know, that's what I usually do. I'll stop and start it, okay? But since this has to do with this, I'll just, until it comes, I'll see how long it takes for it to come. Oh, what was it? It was something where it was, I forgot it now, it'll come to me. But anyway, so, you know, she was sitting there saying, basically, that if you do this, there are certain things that would be irreversible, potentially, and that I might never recover from. I know what it was now. A lawsuit. She was worried about a lawsuit. More than the welfare of humanity. She was just worried about a lawsuit. So, you know, basically I think that was her hesitancy. That's where it came from. You know, and my family was just like, we don't give a fuck, we paid you to do this, get it over with, you know. And so once that disclaimer was set, she got me back up on that table thing, that bed table thing that was like slanted kind of, and put these things on me again, on my head and things. And that time I passed out, and when I woke up, you know, I was kind of dazed for a little bit, but I still remembered that she did that to me. And so she tried again a couple more times and just kept getting it higher and higher and higher. And the last time when I woke up, I remember language, I understand language, but when I try to speak, it comes out all like babbled and breathy. Like all the not only can I not form the words, but my breath leaves me almost immediately. I can't even explain it. It's like you start to talking and you know, I can't even do it. But it's like I couldn't control my breath to speak. It just would flow out too fast. And I also couldn't form my tongue and my lips to make the words that I was trying to say. And there were certain words that I would forget, but most of the language I remember. And so when they talk to me, you know, they ask me if I remember my name, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, of course I remember. And then I'm like, I don't know. And that was the point where I really started to freak out. I was like, what the fuck is my name? Why don't I know my name? What am I called? I should know this. You know? And I just couldn't remember. I couldn't remember anything. I tried to get up and I realized that my body would not do what I was asking it to do. And that's when I really freaked out, and I was told, don't worry, you'll learn to walk again. Like as mundane as an afternoon evening sandwich. Don't worry, you'll learn to walk again. No emotion, no signs of encouragement, really, just matter of fact. And slowly but surely I started to talk, and there was one moment where I tried to move. I remember them saying, don't try to do everything at once, it helps to, and I think this person might actually have been actually friendly, like sincerely friendly, because there was one person that actually gave me advice. And why would they do that if they hated me? So there was one person, I think, that actually might have, a nurse or something, that might have actually cared, I don't know. And they said, you know, think about just moving just your hand or just a finger. And don't try to get up and walk. Just think about doing one thing at a time, and sometimes that's easier. So I don't know, maybe they were trying to limit my ability and make me strive for smaller goals so that I wouldn't try as hard and then I'd give up. Or maybe they were actually trying to help me, I don't know. But there was a moment where, I was, trying to pick up my arm, and I kind of went like that. Like it was not controlled, it was shaky, and I kind of just went like that. It was just really, I can't even do it, because it's neurological. So I can't recreate what happened, but just so you know, it's just like I was able to pick it up and just kind of go down like that. Now, ever since, I tried to do it again and again and again until I could do it every time. And then I just tried to do that with the other arm and the rest of my body, and with like my neck and my head, and just eventually, after several days, I don't know how long it was, if it was just 3 or 4 days or if it was more like a week and a half, I don't know, but it felt like 3 or 4 days, because the amount of time that I remember going to bed and getting up again. But when you're that out of it, it could have been a lot longer than that, I don't know. And they look at me and they go, with very judgmental, judgy, untrusting eyes, in angry eyes, they go, "That's impressive. People don't usually recover this fast." Just with really hateful eyes. And I don't remember what happened before I went there. I don't remember what happened when I left the hospital and my family came to pick me up again. But I do remember them, when I finally began to talk again, I do remember them quizzing me on things that I remember. And I could remember basic things about myself eventually. And a lot of that was coming back. But a lot of the specific things, I didn't remember specific things. And they were convinced, with the constant nagging, dreading, drenching approach that they did, with asking me so many fucking questions about what I remember and don't remember, they finally were convinced that I probably forgot all the times that I was abused, and a lot of the rest of my just general life in general. So the memories, some of them came back months later, some of them came back years later, some of them came back decades later, and to this day I'm still remembering new memories. I do not think that I'll ever remember everything. When I remember, I feel the pain associated with it. I remember exactly what that pain felt like, whether it's being shot or drowned or poisoned or set up to that electricity thing. Electric shock probably was some kind of botched electric shock therapy where they just turned the knob all the way up, it's probably what happened. But I'll never know for sure because I was too young to know what it really was. And I've never actually seen electric shock therapy actually done on anyone, so I don't know if it was that or not. I'm just assuming. That was something botched, and unconventional, out of practice. Um, anyway, so I remember the pain and everything that happens, and to this day, I'm not entirely normal, but I remember enough to know how to watch my back and to best prepare. Because, like I said, they are still free. They are still trying to hurt me every chance that they get. I do still have to watch my back every second of every day. And it's not just two people. It's not just my mother and my father. It's everyone everyone in that cult that they belong to. So I don't think I'll ever remember everything. But now I think I have an answer to why I talk in circles and why I forget words. And really, one time I forgot the word car. That's a 3-letter word. That's just not normal. When you realise, and like I said, most of the time I'll stop. I'll go like this and I'll stop it, and you'll see when I stop it and I pause. That's because I'm trying to remember a word. I've never actually said that on here, but that's why, if you're wondering. It's not me trying to adjust the camera. It's 9 times out of 10 when I do that, that's me pressing pause so I can remember, because it take over a minute sometimes for me to remember. So at the end of all that, I think part of why it took so long to put 2 and 2 together for this one, at least, because I was just happy I could walk and run and play like a normal kid. I didn't really think too much of it. I didn't really think anything past it. I just was happy that I had recovered, and I didn't really try to. That was actually one of the few times that I gave up trying to find the answer of why. Why did they do this? And I was so glad that I had recovered that I put that why secondary, like, okay, I'll find out eventually, and then it just kind of got pushed into my subconscious, and that finding out eventually is over 2 decades later. So probably 2.5+ decades later. So I don't know exactly what age I was. That's another thing. Probably from age 4 to 7 or 8, but it's a big gap. I don't remember exactly how old I was. There's more that I don't remember than what I do. But because I'm pagan, I believe that anything I remember, I'm being guided to remember. It's the universe, it's a message, it's my spirit guardians, it's something that I'm going to need, to protect myself. A memory that I'm going to need to know. And because I'm pagan, I also kind of remember that, let me just put it like this. I don't have the same belief that most people do, because I've survived things I shouldn't. And because I'm pagan, I believe that the reason why I survive things I shouldn't is, protection and magic and protectors and guardians and guides. And I believe that, something was protecting me and helping me mend, and I couldn't have done it alone. And if you're pagan, you know exactly who that was, usually, that saved you. And I won't get into that with this. I've gotten into that with other things. But it's no mystery to me. You know, it was my guides, and it was that protection around me that saved me, that spared me. But you tell an average everyday person, and they're gonna laugh their head off, saying, "Oh, there's no way you could survive all the things that you survived." Like, for example, my father aimed at the right place. He did. He totally aimed at the right place, but when the bullet hit, it did this weird, like, zigzagged across my skin, and then it went in, and then it went down. So it missed all my vital organs, just barely. Because even though he was standing right at me, right in front of me, he was towering over me. He had perfect aim, and the bullet did this. The doctor couldn't explain it. No one could explain it. Why the bullet, like, magnetically went around my heart and missed it. It's stories like that. And I've got the scar. I've got, and it's really faded now, you really can't tell, but in the front. But you can see an entry, a tiny little entry on the front side, and then a tiny little exit on the back. Wound, scar. And the part right here was kind of superficial, so you can't really see that part right there. And so, you know, unless someone really analyzed it, you wouldn't be able to tell that it had that track anymore. So, you know, if you believe me, you believe me. If you don't, you don't. But I don't say these things just to say them, just to make them up, just because. You know, I say them because if I don't warn people that these types of people are out here and this is the kind of resources they have at their disposal, if I don't warn people that they have access to things like gas chambers, and that they have the police that investigated also the 2 syringes and the bullet wound, they were part of this cult, and so they got off. They did a botched investigation. They come in over a week later and they say hit and run, and the person at for the bullet wound, and the person at the receptionist is saying, well, it's infected, why'd you wait this long? And well, they waited that long because they wanted to punish me. They said they were never taking it out. But then their lawyer said that it could be used, even a fragment could be used as evidence. And so, you know, that's why they waited that. And the only person that didn't seem to be in on it was the receptionist. The doctor seemed to even be in on it. I mean, because I didn't receive the care I should have. You know, it's just, and I won't get into it because that's not the one we're talking. That's not the memory we're talking about. But what I'm trying to say is, I have way too much proof, you know, that these things really did happen to me, and I really did survive them. And while I'm lucky to survive them, I believe my only purpose in surviving them is to warn anyone who will listen to me. This is what happens. Most people don't live long enough to figure it out. I've lived long enough to figure it out, and now I can warn you. I warned you about people putting poison in your food and water, in the air, in your eyes. Warned you about this underground operation that they have, military level, tools at their disposal, for lack of a better term. Military level, you know, assets, basically, that they have to their disposal. This is a big group of people. And every time you see something on the news about someone, you know, having a toxin inside their apartment and dying from that toxin, and then the people that EMT that go to get those people out of the house, they end up getting the toxin, they end up being hospitalized, and no one ever comes back and says this was the toxin that was used, but they do at least admit that there was some kind of poison that was put in there. And they also never come back and say, hey, well, most of the time they never come back and say, hey, we found the person who did this. You know, but at least you know it's happening, because you see stuff like that happening in the news. So maybe you can pair some things, maybe not this particular thing, but some other things that I've said in this playlist. Maybe you can compare it to stories that you've heard of, you know, where people suspiciously died. And, you know, just, I mean, they love to target people like me, pagans. But they also really love to target LGBTQ, and which I am also, I'm gay, so, you know, that's not working in my favor. Two things they really fucking hate about me. And they love to target other, you know, minority races. Any minority race, anyone that's not white. That's the only thing that I was spared of. Really. So they'll target religion, they'll target lifestyle and sexuality, and then they'll target especially race. And so if you know anyone that fits into any of those categories that has died in a suspicious way, it probably has to do with a cult either like this or this exact cult. It's astonishing how big their numbers are. It scares me. Because if we ever did get into a world war, I want to make sure that the people who are good and are doing the right thing outnumber those evil people like my family. I don't want to see a repeat of what happened, you know, World War I, World War II. You know, but if it does happen, I hope that the good people come out on top again. And I hope that this time the good people don't just say, oh, the war ended, we're all good, let's all just, you know, smoke weed and have fun. I hope that this time they will track down these people when they go underground. They will track them down and whack every last mole that they can find, and they will continue. The CIA, the FBI has done a terrible job. Any other organization, period, has done a terrible job. CIA especially, because they're international. You should have found all these people long time ago. And the fact that they're still out there running around free and breeding like fucking jackrabbits. And by that, I don't always mean literal breeding. I mean recruiting. It's a blessing in disguise that they hated me. It's a blessing in disguise that they thought I was a devil child, witch, demon, because they never let me to believe what they believed. And I never, because of how they treated me, I never trusted anything they said. And I thought for myself, and I made my own decisions about things. Because they hated me, I'm not racist. I allow myself to embrace the fact that I'm gay. And I allow myself to take part in paganism, which is something that I really truthfully believe in, instead of forcing myself to have the religion, the barbaric religion that they have. Now, I'm okay with modern Christians, but not my family. You know, I've embraced the fact that I'm, I guess, a witch. But I am not a devil child, okay? If you want to talk about devils and demons, look at my fucking family. Because they're the biggest fucking demons I know.